Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Jen Thompson, and I am in one of my favorite places in the world. I'm in my dear friend Dee Cochran's office here at the Lexington Police Department, and we just wanted to get together and have a conversation and share with you the perspective of law enforcement and the perspective of Lighthouse for Life about staying safe during this time. And so we're just going to have a conversation and see how it flows. If you have questions or comments that you want us to address in another chat later, leave those in the comment section below, okay? So, good morning, Dee.
Good morning. I am so grateful, Jen, that you didn't find it robbery to come here and talk to me today. No. I think it's so important for our country, for our state, to be aware that even though we're in times of distress and we're just going through a lot and being inundated with a lot of information, trying to keep our families healthy and safe, with the coronavirus, we also have to be sensitive and understand that there's other dangers that are out there during this time. And as a police officer, we are well aware and we are on the charge of making sure that we are not only just safe from the coronavirus, but we're also protecting our youth while they're out of school. So I just think it was such a great opportunity for us to have this conversation, and that's just to talk about vulnerability. So when I think about vulnerability, the first thing I think about is, wow, our kids are out of school.
Their routine is interrupted. Everything's unpredictable.
They spend so much time at school. It's almost like a safe haven. It's an opportunity for them to engage with their peers physically, face to face. And now with social distancing, they are online more. They're spending a lot of time communicating by way of electronics, and that leaves opportunities for them to be victims of a crime.
It does, and what I love about this conversation is how we're going to bring light to the fact that even our opportunity to share with you guys via video is a great positive use of the internet and social media. And what we want to just bring awareness to is the reality that evil still will be persisting in the background while we're all distracted by the virus, and we just want to cause awareness to come to that and preparedness, not a panic, not an extra type of freak out type thing, but we just want to bring awareness and understanding that we are vulnerable now in different ways. Maybe your children aren't vulnerable to interacting with someone at school who might be trying to groom them or build their trust, but now they're more vulnerable because they're stuck at home and they might be online more. So what do you think are some of the ways that predators are maybe trying to disguise themselves and take advantage of this vulnerability?
Well, I think, Jen, that's a good question. I think one of the main problems that we have is that when we think of predators, we think of a particular type, or we have this image of this creepy guy, and that's just not true. That's just completely false. And so I think what we need to do is understand that that the internet gives us this anonymity.
Absolutely.
We can be and perceive and do and say whatever we want behind a computer screen. And so that creates a whole nother monster all by itself.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's important that when we think of predators, we no longer think of the creepy guy down the road or like the stalker that's hanging out by the schools and things like that. We have someone that's on the internet that pretends to be either a relatable, meaning that he comes or she comes across as someone that's their age. They're very deceptive. They're very good at what they do. And the reality of it is they blend really well in society. And so we have to be aware that when our kids are online, or if we're online, or young people are online, that this is not anything that's going to stick out, necessarily, and give you automatic red flags like this is a creeper.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's like you said, the anonymity, and this has been true for us because I know I do the filters on my pictures before I post them sometimes. So we're already screening how we present ourselves just in general. Like we trade sides on the couch or whatever to film this, right? So we're always like putting out our best foot forward. And so, predators are going to be putting out their fake best foot forward. What do you think would be some signs that, you're a parent and I've been a teacher for 15 years and interacting with youth all across our state. What do you think would be some signs that a guardian or a caregiver or a parent would see from their teenager that might indicate that the teenager might be engaging in some sort of consistent beginnings of being groomed by someone online that they might not want to share about? Like, what do you think you'd see?
Well, Jen, I first want to go back to grooming.
Oh, sure.
Because I think a lot of parents may not understand the process in grooming.
That's a good point.
And how intentional grooming is, and how very deliberate grooming can be. And grooming can come across as a friend, a friendly conversation, you know, and then I start studying the child's online access behavior, unsupervised timing, where they frequent, you know, their friends, being very deliberate of making friends with their friends, those type of behaviors. And then a lot of times it's natural for us to express ourselves, to have a voice, and we use that on the platform of the internet. And so they look for those things.
You're right.
Teens that just express themselves in all different kind of ways. And we have perpetrators that actually target those type of conversations or those type of situations, and they are looking for opportunity to insert themselves.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I've noticed with dealing with both ends of the spectrum, whether it's dealing with a perpetrator or dealing with a victim, is that they both have this sense of wanting to be relevant, wanting to be heard, wanting to be relatable, wanting people to understand them.
Yes.
And so what happens is you have this relationship that seems almost organic, where this perpetrator understands and can get into the psyche of this child, understanding that, oh, he just wants someone to listen to, or she just wants someone to be able to relate to. And so they use that as a grooming tactic. And so then you see a child that will be withdraw from family and friends. They will do less activities that does not involve being online, communicating. And they want to spend most of that time communicating with that person that they believe has their best interest.
Filling their cup. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are some really easy ways to determine whether or not your child's spending a whole lot of time online, communicating with one person, and then they start becoming isolated from their other friends, and this is the person that they are consistently talking to.
Yeah.
And they get angry.
Yeah.
They get angry when you say there's no phone at the kitchen table, or, you know, if they're closing their screen down whenever the adult comes in the room. And
you're invading my privacy.
Secret.
Yes.
You know, they're being very secretive about their activity online and things like that. And more than likely it's because they're being groomed for, you know, potentially being a victim.
You know, and what I'm thinking of and hearing you say plays itself out in stories that I know that have happened even before now, even before the social distancing, where predators, you know, we knew one story where a lady went online and she went back in the history of the child's posts. It's probably 6 months, and built this whole profile and knew that the child was a fan of this college team, was studying this in high school, you know, lost her mom. That was a big vulnerability. You know, had hobbies like this, and so then the lady was looking for one of those cues where there was a day that the young lady was missing her mom a little more than normal, and she reached out just online and just said, you know, extra hard day today. You know, this would have been mom's birthday, first birthday without mom. And the lady reaches in very compassionately, and over time portrays herself as a mother who lost a daughter that had all these things in common with this young lady. And all she had done was just go back in time and read what the young lady had shared. And I'm not saying, you know, don't share some stuff online. It's just because we already have, right? The whole world put all of our stuff out there before we even realized what we were doing. But the practicality of thinking, why would this stranger care? You know, and the young lady might even have moved towards the older lady, like, why would you care about me? And the older lady says, well, this is not a one-sided deal. I mean, I was giving my time and my influence and my compassion and my life lessons to my daughter, and I don't have her to do that with anymore. So you're like a legacy. And so the predator portrayed as though it's meeting a need for me too. This isn't a one-sided thing. And this went on for months and months. And eventually the young lady left and went to visit the predator. And then the predator did what you said. They kept it really safe, very predictable, very fun, a little beyond what mom and dad would have normally allowed. So, like got home safely. And then when she goes to school and her friends are like, pardon me, you went where? With who? For what? She was like, look, I'm back with you. Everything that she told me online was true. Like, she is who she says she is. Like, what's the problem? And then the next time that there was an ache in the heart and things weren't going well, the predator portrays, well, why don't you just come and stay with me? I'll be the mom that you don't have anymore, and you can be my daughter. And then she goes, and it was a whole nother story. Yes, it was. And I think it's important to demonstrate that the reality of what you're saying can happen happens. Right. And it happens to real people in real places, just like our county, in our town.
I agree with you, Jen. And the reality of it as parents, I think that sometimes we hate to have those conversations with our children, but that's an opportunity for these predators to actually have leverage over us by not avoiding those conversations. So if I can offer a piece of advice, to parents is fear. Don't be afraid to have conversations, because fear will actually be a motivation and be used as a tool against you and your child, because the predator is looking for you to have that fear of having those tough conversations, or even sitting down talking to your child about things that is uncomfortable. And so a lot of times the perpetrator actually benefits from you having that fear. Another piece of advice I would give is assuming.
Yes.
Assuming, as a parent, I know I have children, we assume that our kids know what to do in these situations. We assume that they wouldn't fall prey to these particular situations. And the reality of it is that's just not true. That's right. And when we assume that our children know how to handle these situations, then we are ultimately failing our child.
Yes.
And so I think it's important for us not to assume, and us to actually have real conversations, meaningful conversations with our children. And I told Jen earlier, I said one of my strategies, and this just works for me, is scenarios. So what I do is I talk to my kids in stories. I'm a huge storyteller. Yeah. I enjoy telling stories. And I enjoy taking that pressure off my kids from feeling like I'm being intrusive.
Yes.
Or it's a type of dictatorship, or it's not a dialogue.
Right.
And so by me using scenarios or using their friends as example, it takes the pressure off of them.
Yeah.
And then it gives them the information in a non-threatening way. It gives them the ability to critically think and to be able to come to their own resolve
ahead of time
before it actually, and it gets their brains turning. And it's very practical scenarios that I talk to them about. I talked to you about the college student who was going into college as a freshman year, really excited about getting away from her family and her parents, and going out on her own and starting her new journey. And she was in a group that was supposed to be for meeting freshmen. And she met a guy who was at this freshman meet and greet. And he portrayed himself as a friend. And he would be there to help her. Her second semester in, she decided, hey, I need to look for a job. Do you know any place where I can go and just find a few bucks and make a few bucks that won't interfere with school? And so he offered a weekend job to her, not knowing that it was actually sex trafficking ultimately. But he portrayed that he would get her a few bucks on the weekends. It wouldn't interfere with her job. A really practical scenario. Something that can happen to any of us. As a freshman, I know as a freshman in college, I had no money. I had no money. Some of my friends would go out and go to the Chinese store to get food, and I'm like, where are you getting money from?
If you have any leftovers, you can see me.
Yes, please. Yeah. And so, just realizing that that's a vulnerability.
That's right.
And someone is willing to take advantage of a college student coming in away from home for the first time probably and don't have money. And so she was susceptible to this crime and all the promises that he made. Somebody who she trusted, who he took time and spent with her and took her off campus and spent time with her and things like that. And it ended up being a really bad situation for her.
Well, let me ask you this. I can imagine the emotion that would erupt inside of me as an aunt. If I came into the awareness that one of my nieces or nephews were in some sort of online whatever activity, like say their dad or mom discovered that they're having some sort of conversation, or they're sending, pictures that someone's asking them to send, and being sent pictures without soliciting them, and I can imagine my heart would explode with all sorts of emotions towards the perpetrator, towards my niece or nephew, towards my brother maybe, or my sister-in-law, because I might, like you said, make assumptions of, you're not paying attention to what they're doing, why don't you have filters on, or saying to the kid, don't you know better? Like, as a parent yourself, like, how do you think you would advise somebody to prepare ahead of time of how they might respond, or in the moment, like, man, try not to respond like this, or try to respond like this? Like, what do you think?
I think the most important thing for a parent is to not overreact. Because the last thing you want to do if you overreact in any given situation, especially with our young people, they're going to put up this wall, this protective wall, and they're going to feel attacked. Yeah. And that's any of us.
It is. Yeah.
It truly is. And so I think the best case scenario is we don't as a parent, we don't have a book. There's no where is the book?
There are a lot of books, but they are long.
So we're doing the best we can, and we're kind of learning as we go sometimes, and the reality of it is you don't have to know all the answers. You put people in position around you that might be an expert in this, or have a little information in this, and know a little this, and you contact those people and say, hey, I found this on my son's computer. How do you suggest I handle it? Give me some advice. I know that you deal with this in time past. I think it's important we go back to the idea of a village. Yes. If we parent from the concept of a village, meaning we have all different kind of people surrounding us that's helping us raise this child. I think a lot of times we just feel like we're in this by ourselves. Well, and I want you to know you're not in it by yourself.
You know what I've noticed working at Lighthouse for Life over the years? I've had people call me or write to us on an email or meet in person, and they have been dealing with this scenario with their children for a while, and I or my staff that they reach out to, we're the first ones they're telling. What do you think would, and these might be some guesses or some assumptions, but what do you think would be a reason why even a parent or a guardian would struggle in hesitating to reach out for help?
It's because a part of us believes that it's something we did wrong. We failed. Yeah. We don't want to be failures.
Amen. We don't.
And we don't want to admit to, I missed it. We want to portray, just like on social media, we want to portray and put our best foot forward. Right. And so if our child has fallen victim or is potentially in a dangerous situation, then that's us being vulnerable and being up for criticism. And maybe even possible judgment. And so I think sometimes parents, and then it's a fear factor in there too, like, am my kids gonna feel like I've betrayed their trust? Or
who you talking to about me, Mom? Yeah.
Exactly. So it's so many different dynamics, and the reality is sometimes we have to look at, sometimes there's not parents that's in the picture. Right. That
I can't give you what I don't have.
Yes, that are healthy parents.
Well, and what I hear you saying is kind of like an echo, because the child may want to keep things to themselves because they're afraid of what the parent would respond with. And then the parent or the guardian may want to keep it to themselves because they're afraid of what the community will respond with. Right. And it's all this like repetition of, like you said, secrecy and fear. I think I'm going to be blamed. I'm going to be judged. And instead of the idea of grace and trying again.
But who benefits from that?
The perpetrator. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a series of, it just fuels that. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we respond, sometimes I've seen where people can respond with the overreacting or blaming. Or judging, or telling you how dumb that was, or how stupid that was, or taking away your technology completely, which would isolate you more, which would do what? Drive you right into the arms or the relationship of the perpetrator. And the perpetrator knows it, and they're going to tell you that that's what your guardian would do, and then when it happens, you're like, see they're smarter than you, and you hate me, and this is,
and you know that the reports show and the statistics show that it's between the age of 12 and 19. When we think about when we were 12, between the ages of, you don't really know who you are.
No.
You know, you're still kind of awkward. You're still trying to figure things out.
Yes.
And I'm like, these predators, they are very calculated. I mean, I've seen them as young as 9, however. But 12 and 19 years of age is that crucial part in your life where you're just trying to come into yourself.
Yeah, it's like the middle school of life. It's like you're moving into really middle school, and you're not the big kid in campus anymore, and your body's changing. And I remember just wishing that there were no yearbook photos from like 6th grade to 11th grade. It's just like awkward till yesterday, you know?
Right.
My awkward phase.
Right, and it's like they prey on that.
They do.
You know, they look for those awkward times, those times where you're in conflict with your parents, or you know you have a little bit of trouble at home and things like that.
So what would be some ways I think we've kind of talked about how not to respond. Like instead of like what would be some real like, you know, this, like what do you think would be some really short but yet practical ways to respond instead of all the things we've just talked about? It's easy to say what not to do. What do you suggest that we do?
So this is going to sound so weird. So you're going to take a page from the book of the predator. You're going to use his tactics and reverse it. So you're going to be more attentive. You're going to study your child. You're going to be more involved. You know, it could be a situation, a scenario where you don't even mention, so to speak, what you saw on there at the beginning. You don't mention, you just say, you know what, I want to spend more time with you, Jack or Jill. I want us to go out and do something.
I'm sorry. You're killing me. But I hear you. Yeah.
So,
you told me just to be normal.
Yes, Jack or Jill. That's all I could come up with.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
So you say, you know what, what are some things you like to do? You know, can I spend more time with you? Let me get your ideas about this. And so the same tactic that the predator is using on your child, you could counteract that. You know, so if you're filling your child up with attention and time and resources and getting to know them a little bit more, and you know, just the study of, because we all have different love languages, including our children.
Oh, you're bringing up, I love those, like, because you're so right. They might want physical, like a hug or a high five, or watching a TV with them, you know, just spending time in the room, or helping them with a project, or the words of affirmation, and
my daughter,
all
she's gotten into cheer.
Oh, yeah.
So we have been, and I didn't realize this was such a big deal for her. So we've gotten into this cheer show, and so we have this date.
There you go.
And so that I didn't realize that was important to her. So I didn't realize that whenever we're getting ready for our show, we get our snacks and stuff like that. Guess what? That phone she doesn't care nothing about her cell phone.
That's just giving me these.
Because that is our time. Yeah. It's something that excites her. She's interested in it. It's made me interested in it. So that's something that we share. So guess what? That's less time that she's on that phone. It's less time that she could be subjective to some stranger telling her about cheer. You don't have to tell her how great she is in cheer, because I'm going to affirm her.
I love that.
I'm going to give her those affirmations. I'm going to compliment her.
Well, and you know what I hear you saying is and I run into this with adults a lot. When I'm doing awareness in public and having conversations with people, they talk about, it's not easy because I used to have a great relationship with my child, and then they got older, and it was just harder to connect. And what I hear you saying is, you're not really worried about how you connected. You pursued her. It wasn't your child's job to maintain a good relationship with you and be like, oh, Mom, you like this show? I'm going to come and set up a time to watch your show. You're saying, no, I only care about cheer because my baby cares about it. And if she dropped that and took up underwater basket weaving, we're going to find a show. And we're going to watch it or whatever. So I love that you're demonstrating that the posture is the same as a predator. It's the older adult going towards the child and what interests them. And so as the parents, the guardians, the caregivers, we must go towards them in relationship and put ourselves in places that might be uncomfortable. You could care less about whatever, but you care so much about them, and then maybe you do kind of like it.
And I love how you said that, pursuit. You know, love makes us pursue.
Right.
You know, and so when we when we have a desire to connect, when we have a desire to build relationships, I think it's important that we be a good steward over someone else's interests.
Well, and grooming, I was thinking about that too. It's over a long period of time because they know the outcome will be money. Traffickers and predators satisfy their own needs and they make money, and that's valuable to them. So for us, our children, what would be valuable to us is to see them grow into healthy, responsible, safe, kind, caring adults, and that's going to take pursuit and time. And you're not going to one and done a lifetime of not paying attention to your kid and be like, well, I took you on a picnic and gave you $10 and told you were smart, so
and
see ya.
Know what you do? It's so great that you say that too, because we don't realize that our children change too.
Yeah.
Like, for example, it was one time where I used to be able to communicate with my son when he was much younger. We had great dialogue and stuff like that, but as he got older, he's a teenager now. He's not really like talky. So now I understand that he communicates through text. So now we talk to each other through text. And guess what? I take it. I say, well, I'm going to get better at this whole texting thing and the lingo and the language, because I want you to know that I'm here for you.
I love it.
And I'm willing to go the extra mile to make sure the lines of communication stay open. So now he sends me random text messages.
I love it.
Or I send him random text messages. Or we have a whole conversation through text. And that's okay.
It is okay.
So it's
that's
like parents understanding that, we meet them where they are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I do. I love it. I love
it too.
Man. Well, is there anything that has come to mind that we haven't really talked about that you think would be important to bring up today? We're probably going to get together and do this again maybe later, guys. And so if while we've been talking, or even now, if you thought of a question or a comment or a suggestion you have about a positive way to spend time with people that's safe and responsible as we're trying to, reduce the spread of these germs, why don't you put that in the comment section, or list a topic that we might not have talked about that you may want us to bring up. I think that one has come to my mind, and maybe we can talk about it today, or you can tell me, but one thing I was thinking about is the rise, of the online technologies and platforms, and the potential for our children to accidentally be exposed to pornography during this time.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jen. I would actually love to talk about that.
Well, maybe we make that our next topic for our next time we get together, is the ways to prevent that and how to respond, and how does that relate and lead into addiction and buying of sex. Sex trafficking. All right.
I agree.
Thank you, everyone.